Please don't take our food. My mom is sick, said the boy to the single dad CEO. The boy's trembling hands clutched the empty basket as if it were the last thing keeping him standing. His dirt-streaked face was wet with tears, his voice barely escaping his throat as he whispered those desperate words. In front of him stood a sharply dressed man, a single father and a CEO known in his world for decisions that could make or break entire departments. Yet nothing in his polished life had prepared him for the raw, aching fear he saw in the child's eyes. In the corner of the dim, quiet kitchen, a woman lay curled under thin blankets, her frail body rising only slightly with each shallow breath. The air felt cold, heavy, and filled with the kind of silence that only comes from long-suffered hardships. And in that moment, the CEO realized he was standing at the center of a story far bigger than he ever imagined. If you believe kindness and second chances can change the world, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness. It truly helps stories like this reach more hearts. The day had begun like any other for Daniel Holt, a man who had built his reputation by being decisive, organized, and always in control. As a single father, balancing his demanding corporate responsibilities with raising his young daughter had forced him to develop discipline in every corner of his life. Yet even with all that structure, nothing stopped the unexpected twists fate seemed to enjoy delivering. That afternoon, he had driven into a small, struggling neighborhood after receiving a call from his company's delivery department about repeated food loss in one specific building. By policy, he had to inspect it, and he expected to find a careless employee or a misrouted package. What he found instead was a hungry child trying to return food he thought he was accused of stealing. Daniel remembered standing at the doorway, frozen for a second as the little boy approached with the basket, his clothes worn thin, his face pale with exhaustion. It wasn't defiance in the child's eyes, it was pleading, the kind of pleading that comes from someone who has been hurt by life too early, too deeply. The boy believed the CEO had come to take away the only food they had left. Around them, the kitchen showed signs of quiet struggle, mismatched cracked tiles on the floor, an old refrigerator humming with age, and a small table where a few pieces of donated bread sat wrapped in plastic. The boy's mother, weak and hidden under layers of blankets, tried to lift her head but could barely manage more than a faint sigh. As Daniel stepped inside, trying to piece together what he was seeing, he felt something unfamiliar, a tug in his chest, a stirring of compassion that broke through the hard-edged routines he had lived behind. He glanced at the package the boy was returning and recognized it as one of the food boxes his company donated monthly through community support programs. He realized the misunderstanding wasn't just about food. It was about fear, fear of losing the last lifeline keeping this family afloat. He learned, through the fragmented, shaking explanations the boy offered, that the child's name was Eli, and he had been taking small, leftover food donations left in the hallway box because his mother hadn't been able to work for months due to her illness. Their electricity had been cut several times, their rent overdue, and the boy had been surviving mostly on whatever neighbors occasionally shared. The building's erratic deliveries had nothing to do with theft. It had everything to do with survival. The weight of the situation pressed into Daniel harder than any boardroom crisis ever had. As a single dad himself, he understood how fragile stability could be, how a single storm could wipe away everything a family depends on. He remembered nights when he held his own daughter close, unsure how he would afford another daycare payment. He remembered the loneliness of doing everything alone. But at least he had a job, a home, and the strength to keep going. The boy in front of him had none of that. So instead of taking away the food, Daniel placed his hand on the table gently and pushed the packages toward the boy. Eli's breath hitched, disbelief etched across his small face. Daniel didn't say anything, he didn't have to. The message was clear, he was there to give, not to take. Over the next days, Daniel found himself returning, not out of duty, but out of a quiet, growing responsibility he felt deep down. He brought more food, stronger blankets, medicine, and eventually a doctor who insisted the boy's mother needed immediate treatment. Watching Eli hover protectively beside his mother as she was examined broke something open inside Daniel. The boy had been carrying the weight of an adult long before his time. While Daniel coordinated care for them, he also learned something else. Eli's mother had once been a teacher who helped children who struggled with reading. She loved her job deeply but had to leave when her health collapsed. Life had slowly stripped away her financial stability until she was left fighting day to day, hiding her illness from everyone to avoid pity. Her only hope had been her son, who tried to be strong even when he was breaking inside. As the treatment began helping her regain strength, Daniel saw Eli slowly transform from a fearful, protective child to a hopeful, brighter version of himself. Daniel would often bring his daughter along, and the two children, despite their different worlds, formed a quiet, sweet friendship. His daughter would share coloring books with Eli, while Eli would proudly show her how he arranged the donated food in their tiny kitchen. It was simple, but it meant everything. The turning point came when Daniel, moved by the family's resilience, decided to offer Eli's mother a flexible remote job with his company's educational department. She had experience, passion, and the kind of heart that couldn't be taught. She accepted with tears in her eyes, grateful not just for the opportunity but for someone finally seeing value in her again. As steady income returned, their world slowly rebuilt itself, one small step at a time. Months later, when Eli greeted Daniel at the doorway wearing freshly washed clothes and a bright smile, the memory of the trembling boy clutching an empty basket felt like a distant echo. The family had found light again, and Daniel had rediscovered something he'd nearly forgotten: how powerful compassion could be when it was offered without expectation. If this story touched your heart, please don't leave without liking, sharing, and subscribing to Ripple of Kindness. Your support truly helps spread stories that inspire hope. And before you go, please comment below: kindness makes us human.